All right, quorum being present, and it's 5:37, I'm calling the June 26th meeting of the Ordinance Review Committee to order. I do not have my agenda, but first will be the approval of the minutes of May 22nd.
I make motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
First and second, is there any discussion, corrections? Those in favor of approving as published? Unanimous.
That's the, well, wrong one.
I think next one.
What do you think about it?
2002. Yeah, I thought I could remember that.
I don't have too much to go new for you. We talked about, I think it was breaking news the last time we met, that the extension deadline has been extended for 1 year. So July 1, 2024 will be the new implementation deadline. After the meeting, I circulated a pretty detailed Excel workbook that has information on how other towns have ADU requirements, short-term rental requirement data, and parking requirement data. And so I did it for Lincoln County, and then if there were other neighboring towns that had something in place, I added those as well at the bottom of it. So as far as ADU maximums, the towns that have accessory dwelling unit ordinances have limited their size, almost all of them have, either just by a flat square footage amount, or there's a percentage calculation to be done. The short-term rental requirements, they're surprisingly, Alna was the one that implemented it as part of some of their pre-LD 2003 work. It was adopted at their town meeting in March. The other towns don't have previous short-term rental requirements, or they're starting to look at them as part of their work for LD 2003. Booth Bay Harbor had proposed one as part of their LD 2003. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about ADUs. Booth Bay Harbor had proposed a maximum size on their ADU as part of their LD 2003 draft ordinance, but it was voted down. The entirety of the ordinance was voted down at annual town meeting, so they're starting from scratch. And I'm not sure if they're going to be, now that they have more time, if they're going to be talking about short-term rentals as well. They kind of talked about it informally about what that might look like. And then parking requirements, which we've been asked to look at by the select board. I pulled all of the parking ordinances for each town in Lincoln County, those that have them, and looked at, both residential size. So most is kind of a standard 2 per dwelling unit, but then there's also parking schedules that go into other uses. For example, barber shop is, a certain amount per number of chairs in the barber shop. Office space is a certain square footage, 1 space for every 300 square foot, for example. So that would be one that we can look at, and if you can give me some guidance on how far you'd like to go with the parking schedule, I can put something together for you to take a look at as part of this. So if you'll recall, that came up, currently the ordinance just defines it as adequate parking is necessary, but we don't really go further into that for the majority of zones in Wiscasset. So if you want to do just residential uses, we can do that, or we can do something larger scale in terms of other uses.
I think it'd be a mistake to limit it just to residential, so. Isn't there a, I can never remember the title of the traffic handbook.
There's a traffic handbook, there's also,
Or other sources that list parking requirements.
yes, so there's a traffic handbook, which has been around since the 70s. I don't know how recent their model parking schedule is, but there's also the International Zoning Code, which is a kind of an offshoot of the International Building Code, and they have a parking schedule that we could also look at. Their uses are more limited, so some towns have uses going into, like, movie theaters and shopping plazas and different sizes of shopping, establishments. So they can be as long or as short as you want. The one that's in the International Zoning Code, I think, lists maybe a dozen uses outside residential. They're a little vague, like, for example, assembly. Isn't one of them, so that could fall into, you know, a church, a civic center, right?
Is there a reason we can't write one or the other into the code instead of us getting specific? Parking shall follow the,
Oh, no, because I don't know if it's like, has Maine adopted their own, like, state building code, or do they adopt the state, the international building code that we could then
Maine
adopt?
has a building code, I don't know the name of it, which
I could look into
we
it.
have adopted, the town has accepted that building
Okay.
code.
I could see if there's
It's, if I
similar.
remember
with
right,
the-
it was mandatory to adopt it at
Move that.
30.
You had to adopt it, but towns under 4,000 population
They don't
don't have
apply,
to enforce it.
Okay,
But we did elect to enforce it, so.
okay.
Because our code officers have 90 rules to actually enforce,
Mhm.
so.
I'll
That
look
might be
into
the
that.
way to do it, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's. I did the traffic engineers quote for that story, but in food study.
Yeah.
Spaces doing the, which is based on traffic, which is based on,
Mhm.
again,
Is it also,
that was based on what kind of business and how big is it, and so
right,
car
That's
parks of X square feet was,
that's how you estimate your trip generations too,
yeah.
without having to hire a traffic engineer.
Right.
All right, I'll do some more
Much
digging.
cheaper to look at.
That's gonna be a real popular topic right there.
Parking,
So we can't have people come, if we haven't got a place for them to put their cars, 'cause
No, but I get complaints about the parking lots themselves, especially the new Haggard lot with residents parking there all day long, employees parking there all day long, and patients parking there instead of parking over across the street where they should. And all I can say to people is, I'm sorry, it's a public parking lot. There are no restrictions there. I can't go kick them out.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
I know that one could be a select board issue. They could put restrictions on at least part of it if we felt the need to.
On the other hand, I got complimented over the weekend for our Water Street parking area, and how nice that was. It stopped and we went to Reddit's.
Well, the people that complain tend to be a lot fewer than those that.
I know, that's why I throw it out that somebody.
They're the ones that make the most noise.
Somebody was happy about it.
And you're never gonna please everybody, everything. Sometimes I have a problem accepting that fact, but. We have those naysayers down there about parking anyways. But I definitely agree that something less ambiguous than adequate would be defined.
Okay, I'll do some more research and I can come back to you with some examples too, to show you. I know.
An argument could be made that any standardized book, as long as they didn't wildly disagree, was acceptable as, was adequate, if, you know, the Traffic Engineers of America, whatever that thing is called, I don't remember the name, says that 2,000 square feet of office space needs 6 parking spaces, then hard to say that's,
Hard to argue.
that's a
that.
source.
Right.
Hard to argue that.
And they say we're large parking spaces and they're not big enough, so. I've got the most popular vehicle in the United States, pickup truck. I really need 12 by 22 parking.
Mhm.
I always get complaints from my wife, even though I'm inside the lines, that she can't open the door if there's a car on the side. Despite all of us wanting to go small meetings. So.
Okay,
All right.
I'll come back to you with that stuff, and then, I looked at the ADU and short-term rental, at the request. I know there was discussion at one of, the select board meetings about wanting more information, so I think I had CC'd you on this as well. I can re-forward it, so if the select board wants to take a look. At what other towns
Because
have
I
done.
don't know, it's probably.
No, that's fine.
Did Lupe get any sense of, Lupe have any sense of why they defeated the entire ordinance? That they don't really have a whole lot of choice.
I know, what I heard was it was, a way to send a message to Augusta. I don't,
They didn't hear it.
right, and I also don't know, I mean, I think the time to send a message would have been when the bill was being drafted. So I think the planning board, actually, heard from the planning board chair today that they're starting over, and are trying to get some more information about, you know, what's required as part of LD 2003. So they'll be revising their draft and taking it back to a future town meeting.
I agree, this should have been, I mean, somebody should have brought this up long before it happened.
Mhm.
I mean, this is total usurpation of our own rule authority, and I can ram this down, I felt like this, and say, you gotta do it.
Did the governor sign?
I haven't heard,
Oh.
so,
Okay,
but if
so
she went,
on
if it
Monday
goes
we would-
unsigned,
on Monday we
it's
can
still
entertain
there.
well, she had 10 days to, you know, either sign it, and if she didn't sign it, it would just go into effect. And that was more than 10 days ago, so, right?
Yes, this was last week.
Meeting, yeah,
So get back up.
but they voted on June 12th, so.
So I didn't see anything whether she signed it or not.
No, and I haven't seen anything like publicized as far as the,
Well, MMA.
It's not other than
might be something
MMA.
that it changed,
You're
I'm
right.
sure.
Politically safer just a little faster, better.
well, it was considered an emergency bill, so it got more than 2/3 the vote, so it's not like it was super contentious in terms of a 50-50 split.
I should think on size of the personally would go with a percentage of the existing. Course, in my mind.
I think there should be something, otherwise you're gonna have two single-family homes on 1 acre lot.
We will anyway, that's the whole line.
Yeah, but you can limit it.
Actually, you can get it under 7 acre lots, because if the lot is already non-conforming, it's still gonna qualify.
The difference between the dwelling unit piece and the accessory dwelling piece is that the additional dwelling, you still have to meet lot area and setbacks. With ADUs, you don't have to meet lot area, so you don't need another, you know, if you have minimum 1 acre zoning, you don't need 2 acres for 2 houses, you can just fit both on 1 acre.
If you don't limit it, you can cram two
And then you
on
can
1
cram
acre.
2, right,
A lot of towns also have maximum coverage.
that's true, so that will get you.
Do we have that? I don't think we do,
Mm-mm.
no. I mean, that's
A
just
lot
my,
of towns go down the Peninsula Street,
Mhm.
and it's usually somewhere in the 30s, 30,
Yeah.
35. So, over 40.
I mean, my opinion as a member of the public, I think there should be something in place. I don't think it should be allowed to do 2 homes on a single acre lot.
Oh, mine. Well, I haven't heard any more about that when I came on my surveyor's work meeting, but the other part was, yeah, we're still gonna have to deal with issues of title, finance, you know, how the Young Institute's gonna deal with it, which is title,
Right.
so.
I believe that DECD is gonna have to reopen final rulemaking, which means they're gonna have to have another hearing on it. Because in addition to the extension date, they were also gonna clarify on the affordable dwelling, like the developments. So if you were putting in a new affordable housing development where you get the 2.5 times the density and then the rejection of parking, they were clarifying the definition to be, you know, 51% or more of the units have to be affordable in order to get that. So as part of that rulemaking that's gonna reopen up, I believe there'll be another hearing. So I'm hoping that people will bring up those issues such as, you know, can we address other things as part of this final rule to clarify? Because there's still gray areas. For example, the tie to that affordable development piece, it says that you have to have someone monitor that the covenants remain in place for 30 years. So if like the unit rents, the rent changes hands or the sale of the building switches, that you have to make sure that it's sold or rented at the, whatever the affordable rate is at that time. And typically with these larger scale developments, in the past, it's been main housing, but now that we're implementing this across the state, can Maine Housing still take that on? And if not, who's the entity? Because it's not really the capacity of the town code enforcement officer or clerk to be tracking that.
It is. There's some worms in this can,
Here. That's all I have for you at this point.
yeah. Any else, gentlemen?
Make a motion to adjourn.
And so at 5:52, we are adjourned.
I have a medical license, but because of this ordinance isn't put in place.